So I stumbled across the clip of the Reverend Raphael Warnock, and I had to do a video on that because of what he said in this is just so spot on. I've talked a whole lot here on the channel about how that I was brought up in church and how that I was taught to believe, and I've talked about how that I walked away from the church back in the early 2000s when I realized that the church I was going to was definitely leaning pretty hard to the right. And that church these days is knee-deep in MAGA, and I have no intention on ever setting foot back in it, and that's that. You know, that's the end of that. There won't be any going back for me because they completely jumped the shark, and I want nothing to do with it. So I'm going to show you this clip of Warnock because he absolutely knocks it out of the park, and then we're going to talk more about how that MAGA just completely stole Jesus' identity. Take a look.
In his very first sermon, Jesus said he came to preach good news to the poor. And so when I hear Christian folk talk so badly about immigrants, when most immigrants do not commit crimes, most immigrants do not live on the dole of our government, most immigrants look nothing like Elon Musk. When I hear people beat up on the stranger, the Bible has a lot to say about how you treat the stranger. When I hear people attack poor people and act like it's a crime to be poor rather than to recognize that it is criminal for so many people to be poor. And they do all of this in the name of the one in whom I preach and believe every Sunday. Can I tell you something? Jesus is the biggest victim of identity theft in the United States of America.
There's two lines in there that is absolute gold, absolute chart toppers, and that is most immigrants don't look like Elon Musk. That's classic. And the last one, Jesus is the biggest victim of identity theft ever. I truly do believe that because I want to tell you something about my upbringing in church. Because I'm agnostic these days and I'm open about being so. But I grew up believing. I grew up being taught to believe, and I did believe for a while. I always had questions. I always asked questions, but anytime I asked questions, I was told to be quiet. I was told that you weren't to question God. And I just had a feeling, even back then as a little kid, I was like, if I can't ask a question, then how solid is this? And I began to realize that the reason why I couldn't ask questions is because the teachers who were in my Sunday school didn't have the sense to answer them. They didn't have the knowledge on how to go about answering it the right way. But I've always believed in the teachings of Jesus. There's some things about Jesus I don't agree with, but the core teachings of what he preached, of do good to other people, treat other people the way you would want to be treated, help those that are in need, visit the sick, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, give the thirsty something to drink, welcome the immigrants. Just the basic message that he preached, I always thought was good. And I always thought if someone applied that to their life, that it would be good. But what I witnessed in the churches that I was in around my part of the world is that they began more and more to just kind of push that stuff to the bottom and not talk about it. And they begin to focus more and more on Old Testament books like Leviticus. They begin to then skip past Jesus and pick out certain things the Apostle Paul said that would match up with Leviticus. And I just noticed that the teachings of do good to other people and be good to other people just kept falling down further. And then when Donald Trump come along, the ministers in my part of the world are completely unlistenable. If you turn on one of their sermons, if you're riding down the road and hit on one of their sermons on the radio, or if you stumble across a Facebook live stream and one of them is talking, it's absolutely unlistenable because they're just flat out telling their congregation that they should be supporting Donald Trump and that Democrats are evil. And I don't hear them focusing in on the message of Jesus Christ, and I think there's reason for that. I think if they truly did focus in on his message of forgiveness and his message of treating people with respect and dignity and his message of treating people the way you'd want to be treated, I really believe that if he zeroed in on that message, if those ministers zeroed in on that they would be going against everything Donald Trump is. and the two don't go together, and they've never went together, and it's never made sense to me how that anyone could push them and make them go together. But I saw the churches becoming more and more political, and to me, that wasn't what it was about, and so I walked away. And I've had people say things to me like when I tell them that I'm agnostic and I don't really believe there's anything out there. I have people say to me, well, you must have listened to someone like Christopher Hitchens or Sam Harris, or you must have read The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. That's what did it. That's what made you walk away. And I'm like, I read all of those books and listened to all those dudes after the fact. Yes, I listened to the Four Horsemen, but I listened to them after the fact. They are not what made me get up and walk out. The minister himself is who made me get up and walk out, and the reason why I got up and walked out is because he went completely outside the Bible, and he was a politician. He was trying to tell me who to vote for. He was trying to make me feel guilty for the politicians I had voted for because I felt they were more in line with what I believed. And he was backing a president then that I thought was too far to the right. Now that guy looks like a moderate, but I thought that guy was too extreme then, and I couldn't sit there and get behind it. And I noticed that the teachings of Jesus was starting to dwindle even then. I have no problem with the teachings of Jesus, and I have friends who are good Christian people, go to church every time the door's open. They're my friends. I love them. I respect them. We have great conversations about it. They know where I stand. They know where I believe. I'm in no way knocking anyone that goes or believes and does the right thing and actually lives the teachings of Jesus. And I have atheist friends who comes closer to living the teachings of Jesus than I do people that goes every week. I have that too, and that's why that it's a sore spot for me when people starts damning someone to hell. If I really truly believed in hell, if I believed it was a real thing, and I believed that if you didn't do exactly what I was thinking you should do, that you were going to go there and you were going to burn for all of eternity, folks, there is no way that I would ever stop telling you about it. I would be aggravating the living hell out of you, no pun intended. I would be on you every day, and I would be terrified. I would be mortified that possibility was out there for you. But on the other hand, what I've witnessed in my lifetime is people saying, well, if you don't agree with me, you're going to hell. Really? You want someone to suffer on that level because they disagree with you? I don't think they truly believe in it. I think they just like to use it to weaponize it against people that they disagree with, and that's pretty damn disgusting. And whenever someone says to me, Brando, why is it you say this all the time? I get asked this question a lot. You said you wouldn't never sit down with the Charlie Kirks of the world. You wouldn't sit down with the Tim Pools. Why wouldn't you sit down with Charlie? Because I have been my entire life. Do you know how many people in this part of the world thinks they're a minister because their daddy had a dream one night and woke up and said, son, I dreamed you was a preaching, and they go out there and try to do it, and then all the adults sit there and listen to this kid who don't even know Jesus Christ was Jewish? I mean, do you know how many people I have met like that in my lifetime? I have had that conversation. When I'm sitting there and I'm scrolling TikTok and I stumble across the Charlie Kirk debate, I'm like, yep, there's me and every hillbilly around here that ever thought that they were the ones that God had called upon. I've seen his act before. I'm tired of it. I want nothing to do with it. Fuck that guy. That's just how I feel about it.